If I were to tell you that there was a Resident Evil game in which players play a series icons in a free-for-all deathmatch, and upon death, players then transform into one of the many different bioweapons seen in the games, you'd probably first think, well, why does that game even exist? Because money. Yet another attempt by Capcom to bring Resident Evil into the online live service space that will be shutting down forever on June 29th. And you know what? I really wanted to like this game. I really wanted RE-verse to do well. I mean, I was rooting for this game upon its reveal and beta testing. However, for many reasons that we're going to get into in this video, the game flopped hard. And I wanted today to talk about the wasted potential that is Resident Evil RE-verse. Let's begin. Revealed on January 21st in 2021, RE-verse was a game made to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Resident Evil franchise. And while fans didn't take it as such, the game didn't receive much praise or love upon reveal, and this sentiment will be held over the game for its whole lifespan. I personally thought the game was cool. I mean, I can play as my favourite Resident Evil characters, all of which have unique abilities. That sounds so cool, but in reality, my own opinion wouldn't change this game's fate. It was clear that fans do want an online Resident Evil game, but not a multiplayer shooter with battle passes and microtransactions. Fans wanted online mercenary modes or even another Resident Evil Outbreak. And I do agree, a modern Outbreak game sounds incredible, and so does an online supported version of Mercenaries. However, Capcom went after the money with RE-verse. The gameplay of RE-verse is what drew me in initially. Players choose from a wide variety of Resident Evil icons, such as Leon S. Kennedy, Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, Claire Redfield, Ada Wong, and Hunk. Each of these characters has a primary weapon, secondary weapon, and 2 abilities. And the combat in general feels similar to the modern Resident Evil remakes, particularly RE3 remake, as it seems the code has just been transferred straight over. However, when players get killed, that's not game over. Instead, players can then transform into a bioweapon, such as Jack Baker, Super Tyrant, Nemesis, or the Fat Molded from RE7. Which bioweapon players transform into depends on how many vials players collected while they were human. Having 2 vials allows players to transform into Nemesis or a Super Tyrant, and you can imagine these are the strongest bioweapons in the game. However, these vials spawn at random around the map during matches, so it's not guaranteed for players to play as these strong monsters. So RE-verse didn't have a strong start, and bad things would only continue to happen going forward. RE-verse's post-launch support was very poor to say the least. The game officially released after a small beta testing phase and delay on October 23rd, 2022. After this release, the game would only receive a total of 5 content updates, which lasted from November 16th, 2022 to January 11th, 2023. So the game got support for what, like 3 months? And the support it got was very poor to say the least. All the new characters, and I use the word new loosely, are just different members of the Hound Wolf squad from RE8, which in itself aren't that interesting in general. And it's clear they did this to save on time on development. As for these characters, they only had to create the abilities, as the models could be reused and flipped around. One new map was also added to the game, that being the village from RE8. As well from RE Village, the Lycan enemy was added to the game. And that's really it. The post-launch support was very RE8 focused, which would have been fine, but by this time RE Village was over a year old and it wasn't really new and exciting anymore. The game itself only featured 3 maps and 1 game mode. Those maps were the RPD, the Baker Family Swamp, and the RE8 Village. So on top of lackluster additional characters, the game got barely any maps to play on. So on a content front, the game had fuck all to say the least. Now the core gameplay, the whole reason you would maybe play this game, is just okay. I honestly feel like the game was better and more smooth in the beta somehow, which I don't even know how they managed that. The controls, like I previously mentioned, felt really good and familiar. I mean, it's literally RE3 Remake's controls ported straight over, that's pretty hard to mess up. The main gameplay loop is this. Matches are 5 minutes long. Players must fight each other to be the highest on a scoreboard. Around the map, players can find weapon pickups for grenade launchers and special weapons alike, as well as herbs to heal, ammo pickups, and the previously mentioned vials in order to become a more powerful BLW upon death. But in general, combat is really clunky and annoying. Hit registration is pretty poor, and sometimes it feels like my bullets are absolute fucking marshmallows. And on top of this, the game feels poorly balanced. Some characters like Ada Wong stick out as they have great stagger abilities, and they can just stick you in this loop with you not being able to move, which drives me fucking crazy. I don't know, maybe it's a skill issue on my part, but the balance feels very poor. And then for the bioweapon section of gameplay, the one standard BOW being the Fat Molded, which players transform into if they gather 0 vials. Of course, I understand players should feel rewarded for collecting the vials, don't get me wrong, you shouldn't play as Nemesis every single life. But the Molded is so slow and sluggish, it just feels like a hindrance and penalty to play as, considering most of the time you'll be playing as it. And then the stun locking characters like Ada Wong can inflict makes it sometimes so you can't even move, and it pisses me off. So we have poor fan reception, a poor launch, and lackluster post-launch support. What can possibly make this game even worse than rushed? How about some lovely microtransactions? Capcom pushed pretty big with them in this game, with characters receiving many outfits for players to purchase, as well as the game having a battle pass. Capcom really wanted to bleed us RE fans dry with this one, and I do think that Capcom had some potential here. I mean, a good multiplayer title where you can play as all these iconic characters can work, but RE-verse just wasn't that. It was slow, clunky, no one really asked for it, and the serious lack of post-launch content killed the game for any hope of having a long lifespan. Still though, it's kinda sad to see the game sunset soon, as it will forever be unplayable. And it doesn't seem like anyone cares. I've seen no tweets or mentions about the game, even though it shuts down really soon. I mean, for the gameplay in this video, I kept running into the same people in my matches. Mind you, it only takes about 6 people to fill a lobby, so it's safe to say that even the people that bothered to play and download this game don't care either. So in the end, it's disappointing to see RE-verse go out the way it did. Just like how it launched, no one gives a fuck. I wanted to like this game, I really did, but it just was whatever. I do hope in the future Capcom will not choose to do another style of game like this and will instead maybe give the people what they want. Maybe release a new Outbreak game, or even something like Resident Evil Revelations 3 with full co-op like RE5 maybe. We'll have to wait and see though. So that's going to be all for me today. I want to thank you all so very much for watching this video, and I will see you on my next one. Peace.